You are standing on a battlefield in France in 1944. You look across the field and see 30 tanks, a fuel depot, and an entire armored division. None of it is real, but the real answer is far stranger than a simple trick. This was a unit so secret, the United States government did not admit it existed until 1996. Its soldiers were sworn to silence for half a century. Some of them died without ever telling their own families what they had done to win the war. This is the story of the Ghost Army. Officially, it was called the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. Unofficially, its soldiers called themselves con artists in uniform. Their job was not to fight, their job was to be seen and to be believed. Picture the unit's toolkit. Inflatable rubber tanks that 2 men could lift and carry, yet from a spotter plane a few thousand feet up looked exactly like 30 tons of steel. Sound trucks that could blast recordings of engines, tank treads, and bridge construction loud enough to be heard 15 miles away. Radio operators trained to mimic the exact transmission patterns of real divisions, right down to individual operators typing rhythms, because German intelligence had learned to recognize soldiers by the way they tapped Morse code. Do you know how hard it is to fake something that specific? It is not costuming. It is performance, sustained for weeks under threat of death. Roughly 1,100 men carried out this deception across Europe, and here is the detail that makes historians pause. A striking number of them were artists, painters, sound engineers, radio technicians, set designers pulled straight out of Broadway and Madison Avenue advertising firms. Among them was a young fashion illustrator named Bill Blass, who would later become one of America's most famous designers. Among them was Ellsworth Kelly, who would go on to become one of the defining painters of post-war American abstraction. The army did not recruit soldiers who were good at killing. It recruited people who were good at making you believe something that was not there. Military historian Rick Beyer spent years piecing this story together after stumbling on a single declassified memo in the National Archives. He later co-authored the definitive account of the unit, and what he found was almost accidental. The files had been sealed under a classification so tight that even the men who served together during the war were forbidden from confirming their own unit's existence to one another after they went home. Wives did not know, children did not know. For 50 years, an entire branch of American military history simply did not exist on paper. Why does something like this stay buried for 50 years? Here is the reframe. It was not embarrassment, it was reusability. The tactics the Ghost Army pioneered, inflatable decoys, simulated radio traffic, sonic deception, became the blueprint for Cold War military deception programs. If the Soviet Union had understood exactly how convincingly the United States could fake an entire armored division, every future deception operation would have been compromised before it began. Secrecy was not about the past, it was about protecting a method that outlived the war it was invented for.
Now here is the twist that even most amateur historians miss. The Ghost Army's greatest success was not fooling the Germans into believing a fake unit was real. It was fooling them into believing a real unit was somewhere else entirely. During the Rhine crossing in March 1945, the unit staged an elaborate deception roughly 10 miles from where the actual 9th Army was preparing to cross the river. Fake radio chatter, fake convoy noise, fake headquarters lights left on at night. German artillery shifted its focus toward the decoy. The real crossing, when it came, faced dramatically less resistance than commanders had feared. Historians estimate the unit's operations may have saved thousands of Allied lives, not by destroying anything, but by making the enemy waste their attention on something that was never there in the first place. Think about what that means. An entire branch of the war was won not with more force, but with better attention management. The Germans were not defeated because they lacked firepower. They were defeated because they were looking in the wrong direction at the right moment. And that is where this stops being a story about 1944 and starts being a story about you. You live inside a version of this same battlefield every day. Your attention is the terrain being fought over, and most of what competes for it is a rubber tank, a notification shaped like urgency, a headline shaped like importance, an argument shaped like the thing that actually matters. Cognitive scientist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying exactly this vulnerability, showing that your brain is wired to react to whatever looks loudest and most immediate, not whatever is actually true or actually important. You are not weak for falling for it. You are running the same hardware that fell for painted plywood in a French field 80 years ago. The Ghost Army did not win by lying about power. It won by understanding that belief moves faster than fact, and that whoever controls what gets looked at controls what gets missed. The declassified files, when they finally surfaced, revealed something almost tender underneath all the tactics. These were not hardened soldiers boasting about deception. They were quiet men who spent the rest of their lives insisting they had not done anything particularly brave. They had just built something convincing enough to matter, then let it disappear. So the next time you feel your attention pulled hard towards something loud, ask yourself the question those German commanders never got to ask in time. Is this the real division, or is this the one built to be looked at? You are standing on a battlefield in France in 1944. Except now you know the tanks were never the point. Your attention always was.